And we continue scoring off some of our requests with a very peculiar choice, I must say. Zipang. The name alone is interesting enough if you have lived my age. It's been at least 2 centuries since I've heard people call Japan that name, and what's most interesting, I've heard of this anime and a bit about the manga. It made quite the uproar back in the day, only to fade into obscurity like many of the now finished works of early 2000s, and I doubt many people have heard about it. So, let's begin. Zipang is a 26-episode, trapped in another time period anime about a 21st century Japanese self-defense missile destroyer named Mirai and her crew accidentally traveling through time in 1942 right before the Battle of Midway. The crew of the ship obviously had a brief what the fuck moment and then decided to try their damnedest as to not change history too much. Unfortunately, one of the crew members, Yosuke Kadamatsu, just can't keep his righteousness where it belongs and saves a drowning imperial officer named Takumi Kusaka, and after a brief, clearly homosexual scene between them, he opens up the ship's library where a military officer of Imperial Japan learns everything about the future, including how things will progress in the war. Good planning there, executive officer. That's not gonna bite you in the ass in any way in the near foreseeable future. You know how various people on the internet like to say that, oh, anime has become for children with low attention spams, I wish there were more serious anime with competent stories and all the other stuff they like to spew about. Well, I'm glad to say that this is by far one of the most serious anime out there. So serious, in fact, that it flows less like an anime and more like some historical TV drama. It has great characters, a very organic story flow, and has almost none of the cliches that plague modern anime industry. No emotionally unstable teenagers, no girls with superpowered weapons, characters very rarely act irrational and generally behave like trained military personnel, not like a bunch of drama queens. And what's most importantly, as far as anime goes, it actually portrays Japan of that era pretty fairly, as far as Japanese portrayal of that time is possible by them. They don't address the way they butchered civilians in China, but hey, French think that they won the war entirely by themselves without anyone's help, so I guess everyone's a bit of a hypocrite when it comes to those times, eh? Add to this the fact that it uses a lot of prominent Japanese historical figures who were against this war and a general anti-war spirit of Mirai crew, and we have a pretty fair anime where both pro-war and anti-war is shown in more or less equal measure. However, this anime also has serious flaws in both technical department and plot, which should be addressed. First of all, the graphics of this 2002 anime are not only old visually, but also old in everything else. Same face is a reoccurring problem here, and not once or twice I had realized that the only thing differing our protagonist from a random Japanese soldier number 21 is his outfit. A lot of scenes and shots are reused, and this becomes especially noticeable in later episodes. Following this, while modern anime goes out of its way to portray every more or less important character as visually unique as possible, Zipang has only 3 types of characters visually. A normal Japanese dude, a guy with these strange eyes like his skin had devoured his eyeballs, and a guy with a 1,000-yard stare whose face could very much be stuff of nightmares give him a proper makeup. Music is also pretty much meh, similar to old One Piece in this regard, and the pacing of the story is very similar to Evangelion or old Japanese movies like Rashomon. There is a lot of seemingly unimportant pauses in the dialogue where characters just stare at you or each other for a minute, communicating either with simple gestures, if communicating at all, and finally the plot could sometimes be too silly for such serious anime. For a group that doesn't want to change history in any way, they sure do like to meddle with it a lot and then theatrically yell stuff like "Americans are not our enemies" or "Everyone blood is red," and then proceed to butcher said Americans with modern weaponry who act pretty much with reckless abandon and a real desire to kill every single Jap in the world. By all means, Zipang is not a bad anime. It's certainly unique enough to give it a try. However, if you're not a fan of historical stuff, don't like the way old anime did things, or you're a person who hates that Japanese occasionally try to revive that pre-war jingoism of theirs, I suggest you skip it. Some people don't like historical stuff, some people don't like when I post their private sex photos on the internet. I know, weird.